Okay. Okay, you should be able to hear me. Good. Now, if I bring that up and change that, and of course, all of this is totally pre-planned and not at all last minute. I had assumed that Games Workshop was going to do this thing, this premiere, not as a premiere, but just as a video that they would release. Turns out, no, it's gonna be a premiere, which is a pre-recorded version, but that's putting out live. It's a thing I've done before. It's a thing I'll do again soon when we get to the final day video. Have I mentioned there's a final day video coming very, very soon? Do we have a question bingo? See, this is a lot of fun things that would have needed a lot more pre-planning. I definitely think, probably maybe, after this, I could do a video about the things we've got, and we can find out how many of the questions I asked you to send in have actually got answers. Because of those questions, let's see. Videos that we did in May. Questions that get answered. Now, they said there'll be quite a few lore questions and answers, which is like, yeah, okay, good. Yay. The lore can be whatever. We can find out the lore when it comes out. I don't think there's any point we need to know, oh yeah, there definitely aren't any Gene Stealer cultists on Armageddon. Well, that changes nothing. But okay. Or there'll be the 12th massacre of our martyred lady on Armageddon. Why not include that? It changes nothing. So we asked about what are going to happen for Legends. Can you make Legends clear in the rules, please? We asked if Legends would be included on the 40k app. I don't know how much they'll actually tell us about the app. We asked if the app would be free and what versions, like alternate version, the free app version would have compared to a paid version, because we are assuming that they're gonna charge us for this app in some way. Premieres in 9 minutes. Okay, good. We asked about the future of Crusade and boarding actions. Are we going to keep doing that, or are we just going to get the Dominatus mission deck, which is fine as a campaign? It has the narrative element, it has some leveling up. I did a video on it 2 days ago, which is also my sort of journey and how much I like Crusade. Crusade is really good if you want to go super in-depth. Now, there may be some factions I want to do a Crusade with, like my sisters and my Gene Stealer cult, and other ones where I just want to do a little bit of stuff. Like, if I was to play Imperial Fists, yeah, we'll do a campaign, but not do a Crusade. I have done a Crusade with my Imperial Fists before. That was in the previous edition. That was in 9th edition, though. And the Imperial Agent stuff is fun. Yeah, that's a really good one. Answers about agents would be nice. Probably. Yes. Yeah. Codex for Deathwatch or Grey Knights. I think we did maybe ask about that. What else do we ask? Oh yes, in an article they mentioned you can have whatever terrain features you want on the area terrain for the missions. Then they released some pre-painted, or they announced accidentally that they leaked, that they now confirmed that they are going to release some terrain which perfectly matches what is on the cards. So is it going to be a rule that you can use whatever terrain features you want included in the rules, or is it not? Is it going to be the rules all say you need to have Games Workshop stuff? But there's a one article, you know, that we'll get a year from now and be like, hey, this thing that came out 13 months ago says I can, so I just want to have some trees, please. And the trees, please, will not be pleased. Are we going to get a tournament companion? Or do we just roll with it as is? Is everything 1,000 points or 2,000 points? Have we got like an in-between size? That'd be good. 1,500 points is so nice. More people should play it. A bit more about how they're going to do points. We're assuming pretty much the same as now. No extra points per war gear. That is something that the audience would go, oh, wow, they're going to do it. They're going to bring back points per weapon. And I would also be thinking, good. Well, it was a nice 3-year-long experiment. Paul disagrees. Paul likes 1 point value for the whole unit. I'm also interested to know how long they think a whole game is going to last. Yeah. Oh yeah, if they charge us for an app and there's no legends, we will just use New Recruit. Exactly. I'm going to move a little bit more to the side. And see it a bit better. We don't need this on right now. That can go away. I'll move a little bit more back to the left. Hi, chat. How you doing? How are they going to increase balance or improve balance? Maybe they just accept that they won't. The problem is they're going to have a lot of things that came from 10th edition that then have to be compatible with 11th edition. We'll probably learn nothing useful. You are correct. Or we'll learn things that they were going to tell us very shortly anyway. How many Crusade books are out? There have been 4 in the last 3 years. We started with Leviathan, which was in the Leviathan starter set. Then there was Pariah Nexus, which came out very quickly after that. Then Nakmud, and then Armageddon pretty much straight after. That was a year ago. What incentive is there to do a free app? Well, it cuts out competition. If it's equally free to use one app or the other, might as well use the official one. They're doing the questions, but they pick the questions from the questions that we will answer. Are we otherwise all right? Yes, okay, sound's coming through well enough. It says so. Might need to put that on. Might need to mute Discord just so I don't get any pings coming through. Good. Okay. Yeah, they're definitely going to be cherry-picking questions that align with the things that they were going to tell us. So this is why I wanted to ask a lot of questions surrounding the stuff that they were not automatically going to tell us in the next week. If you ask what's going to happen to Genestealer Cult, please tell us the name of some of the factions, well, detachments that are coming out. They're not going to tell us much now, and then they'll just wait until a week from now. Or 2 weeks. I think we've got 12 factions yet to come. And we know we're getting Knights and Chaos Knights on Monday. So that suggests there's going to be another doubling up at some point. They might do like Thousand Sons and Emperor's Children at the same time. As an idea. I'm not sure how many other things we've got to do. We've got Admech. We're waiting on Grey Knights. Yeah, if people see that Grey Knights and Imperial Agents are on the same day, panic may set in. But I cannot imagine there would be any big change now before we get to next, like the codexes of next edition. Does New Recruit give you the unit data card? It does if you click on it, yes. Eldar and Dark Eldar in one section? That can make sense, yes. Will they make the agents the best army in the game? There would have to be some pretty good detachments coming out. All of the ones in the codex are expected to be 2 detachments. That's a stretch considering like Ordo Hereticus and Ordo Malleus are not good. The thing I'm mainly hoping to get out of this is talking about legends. Are they going to mention legends in some way? Can we get proper rules explaining legends. Now, in the Age of Sigmar article, they did pretty much spell it out of saying, okay, there's a bunch of units and things that we're going to release as a separate PDF so that units that have been around from Warhammer Fantasy that went into Age of Sigmar that then didn't have a home elsewhere, things like some of the dispossessed dwarves, some of the elves, especially the wood elves, there's going to be rules so you can keep using them. But then in a year's time, those will be moved to Legends, which means you can still use them, but not at tournaments. And the models probably won't be sold anymore, except if they are sold, they're sold for Warhammer the Old World. But it's saying at least there, these are rules you can keep using. They're not for tournaments. They haven't given a reason why they're not for tournaments. That may help explain why in particular you have a set of rules that is for tournaments and a set of rules that you cannot use in tournaments. Part of it is, hey, if there's models we don't sell anymore and people can't get them, then it's not fair if you have an older collection compared to our newer player. This idea is of course stupid because for about 9 months in the last 3 years, you couldn't buy any of the Dark Eldar stuff. They were just not available online or in store. Sure, just can't play Dark Eldar. So I haven't really seen any Dark Eldar. I've seen one Dark Eldar army, and it looked really fun. And I didn't get to play against him, even though I made friends with the guy who was running it, because I had Deathwatch at the time. I was like, okay, well, if my Deathwatch can fight your Dark Eldar, that'll be fun for all of us. By which I mean both of us. However, he lost all of his games, so I never got to play him. They provided a time which is meant to be in a minute. What if Imperial Agents is just scrapped? Unlikely. They're definitely unlikely to do that. And any major changes will happen with a codex. Yeah, of course it's marketed. They've, of course, selected particular questions that they're going to ask. Let me... Can you hear that okay? Should be able to. Let's make sure you cannot hear them above me. Good, 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 good. Okay, maybe we don't need to hear this particular bit. So that is just irritating music. Why did they pick one of the worst ones? You could have a sci-fi option. Have the sci-fi option. Yeah, these are all pre-selected questions of the many questions they got, and volume may have played a part in how much they actually answer some questions, or it's just ones that they'd pre-prepared.
Hello everybody, welcome and thank you so much for sending all your questions to us. We had loads of emails and messages to Instagram. Eddie and I have taken some time to sift through them. There was good stuff to read.
Yeah, we went
sure,
through
just him and Eddie.
Hundreds of questions actually we went through. Some really good ones, some themes emerging, certainly.
Yep.
Yeah, so we kind of compiled them together and we've got some answers for you.
Exactly, so over the next little while, we're going to read through the questions, give some answers, and hopefully tell you what you need to know about the new edition of
This is
Warhammer
on max
40,000.
volume.
Yeah.
They're just
Thanks for sending them in as
actually
well.
quiet.
Before I jump into it, how did your game with Aiden go this week? That looked interesting.
Oh yeah, great game, great looking table. Obviously, I beat him in the game, but he beat me on paint scores.
I would expect nothing less from Aiden.
Terrain?
Awesome. That
Alright,
segues
so they're mentioning the
to
terrain
our first
that they
question,
leaked.
Which is,
First question.
you've
Okay.
just announced ready painted terrain. Will you be also selling unpainted?
We definitely will be selling unpainted versions of that terrain as well.
Oh, right, okay.
So you'll be able
Hey,
to
that's
choose whether
good.
you want to have the convenience of
Oh,
being
I
able
wonder
to
which one is going to
assemble
cost
the
more.
battlefield quickly and not worry
The
about painting
painted
it,
or the
if you've
unpainted
got a
ones?
battlefield that you've been working on for a long time, or a basing scheme or something. We will
Background music.
sell
Yeah, I'll get rid of
unpainted
that.
terrain so you can paint it whatever style you want.
Perfect. Essentially,
Thank you.
You can do what you've already been doing. Try the new stuff when it comes. Next question. Are there any plans to sell ready painted miniatures?
No.
No. No?
No.
No.
No. Well,
Right.
my last video was
That's a
hypothetical
controversial
anyway.
question. Who will be the next returning loyalist Primarch?
Good question, but I'm really sorry to break it to you. They're actually all dead.
All of them.
Yeah,
pretty sure they're
everyone's dead.
Well, so we do know that, like, Russ is
Especially Lehman
back as
Russ.
a tank. Rogel Dawn as a tank. If I was a betting man, expect a battle tank called a Khan or a
Probably be quite fast.
Manus or a Sanguinius at some point. Yeah. Interesting that the question was
Is this
who rather than will. They're dead.
is this like a joke now?
So, into Legends.
But hey,
how will
everyone's dead. I can
Legends
take
be
that.
supported in the new edition. Eddie, what you got?
Yeah, so Legends will continue to be supported the same way it is now. There'll be data sheets for units that have existed in previous incarnations of Warhammer 40,000. One of the things that we'll have when the codexes start to drop in edition is that you will start to see Legends units added into the Warhammer 40,000 app. So not right at the beginning of the edition.
Good.
As the codexes start to release, the app will update with Legends as well, and you have the option to include them in your army that way.
Nice. That actually kind of answers the next question, which is will Legends be in the app? So not at launch. But
Look, our questions are getting through. Our questions are getting
Are there
through.
any
This is
changes
nice.
to Battleship make it more impactful?
Yeah, so we had quite a few people asking this
It
one.
was a recurring topic. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
so particularly coming from Night Lords and Tyranids players.
Almost like they want you to run away.
And there are a few things that make Battleshock more impactful. The first of them is that you now take Battleshock tests when you're at half strength rather than below half strength.
Oh, right, okay.
That means that if you've got a unit of 2, or
So if you've got more than Val and 3 Paragon War suits and you lose 2 Paragon
The
War
other
suits,
really big
you will
thing,
have to
though,
take a
is that
Battleshock
you
test.
don't un-Battleshock automatically at the end of a turn. That means that if you go into your next turn,
Well, it was usually at the start of the command phase you won Battleshock.
Battleshock, effectively, regardless of how you became Battleshock.
Prevents use of stratagems. Battleshock.
Yeah, so one of the things people do at the moment quite a lot is that if they've got a unit on an objective that's really important, they go, I'm going to use my once a game stratagem to auto pass that Battleshock. But if you're already Battleshocked going into that, you can't use it because you can't use stratagems when so that's quite impactful. Battleshock is a bigger thing in this edition.
Well, yeah, it sounds like that.
So, a question about some of the miniatures in the.
Oh, I don't think
launch
hallowed
box.
matters will
It says,
change.
I love the new army.
Because that's about starting strength and
I have
half
a
strength.
Dark Angels army.
Well, this
I like
might be one for you.
already.
This is one for you, I think. Owen.
Were the Dark Angels ever on Armageddon? So, ever is a mutable term, right? Operation Imperator, which is the book that comes in the Armageddon launch box, doesn't specifically cite the Dark Angels having a presence.
Oh, there'll probably be Dark
Armageddon,
Angels there hunting
the,
a fallen.
Crusade that the Space Marines launch. But it does disclose that there are a number of unspecified chapters sort of at work there. So
And then there's others. So if you want your chapter to be there, your chapter's there.
I think it's completely reasonable. I know I'm going to. With my...
The other thing we do know is that in some of the earlier battles for Armageddon, so just before the third war for Armageddon, there were definitely Dark Angels in a nearby system fighting against
Nazdrag, right?
Nazdrag and Ghazghkull, their kind of alliance. So there have been Dark Angels in the vicinity of Armageddon. In the
They've got a history.
They do, yeah.
I like that. Okay, so
it would be nice if it also
more on
affected
models
things
that
that
we
are
see
at
in the
half
Armageddon
strength.
launch box.
Yeah, but
will we see multi-part versions of any of the units that come in the Armageddon launch box as part of future releases?
Well, that seems like an obvious yes.
There will be multi-part versions of several of the units.
Several, but
in the
not all of
Armageddon
them.
Set. Those units, the multi-part versions, will bring new options as well, and they're designed to supplement and complement the units that come in the Armageddon set.
Okay, so like I expect remade Gravis Marines with
most
optional
asked
weapons.
questions, I think, or close to. It says, "Is Deathwatch still an army in the new edition? I got worried when they didn't feature alongside Space Marines in their faction."
Okay, there's our question.
So we got quite a lot of this question in. Lots of you playing Deathwatch want to make sure your army still works in the new edition. It absolutely does. Deathwatch continue to work kind of as they do today. So you can either add them into Imperial armies through Imperial agents, through the Ally system, or you can take a Space Marine army and say this is a Deathwatch Space Marine army. You don't get any new detachments necessarily in the new edition as it launches, but you can access all the various different Space Marine detachments that other Space Marine chapters can as well. So you've still got a few options in terms of how your detachments work.
Great, yeah, that's as I expected. You better not kill us again.
Do shooting armies suck now?
Yeah, so we've shown quite a lot of rules from the new edition. And,
yeah, through the ally system. So the way it works is like
online about lots of them look quite
assigned agents. The Imperial agents
army,
rule. You can add some
there's lots of
Deathwatch
things to look forward
veterans
to.
and Deathwatch kill
There's a few
teams
people who've
to
got
other armies.
PAL players, Astra Militarum players, that sort of thing. They're a little bit worried that their armies might not function as well into combat armies. They work absolutely fine. There are a few things that help out armies in the game in terms of how the battlefields and the missions work. So one of the things that definitely helps is that most of the time now the objectives are a terrain piece, and that means that to take the objective you have to be on the terrain. At the moment, in the current edition of Warhammer 40,000,
Okay.
a lot of the time you can kind of take an objective by sort of putting your toe onto it on the other side of a wall.
parking
You
somewhere.
can
side
still,
of the
in
wall, yeah.
11th edition,
That's
put
very
your toe
difficult to do
onto
in
it
the
on the
new
other
edition.
side
So
of a
most the
building.
time when a unit is taking
Because if
an
you've seen the big walls that help
basically
make up a
be
corner,
available
there's still
as a
some
target to
space
fire
on the
at
area
and
terrain
stuff.
to get on there.
The other thing is that a lot of the missions,
That's
if you
not
have a
gonna
combat
change.
army, encourage you to basically run across open ground towards enemy units. So if you can set up firing lanes appropriately, shooting armies do very well at kind of
Right, so
daunting
it's saying, oh, if
missions,
enemies come
so
to
they will be
you,
fine.
then you can
The
shoot
other
them,
thing
but
is
you
that,
also have to go into the middle of the
if
board,
any
which is
units
where the combat
maybe perform
armies
slightly
want you to
differently than
be.
they do because of rules changes, there will be some points changes.
You could do a guard or sisters
they will
army
be
with
fine.
an
If you've got a
inquisitorial
tower
general.
army,
Yes,
They'll be fine.
that's absolutely allowed.
Nice to
That's
be
very
able
much
to count
encouraged.
that one.
You could have an Imperial Guard army with one Battle Sister squad from Imperial Agents.
Still an army.
Grey Knights are definitely still an army,
Very much so, right?
and they will get some new detachments.
Okay, yeah.
Next question.
Grey Knight's
Almost,
coming,
mirror of
I
Grey
assume,
Knights.
next week or the
What's
week
going
after.
on with demons?
So demons as well continue to be an army into the new edition. Demons didn't get a codex in the last edition, but they did get their index at the start of 10th. That index continues to be completely legal in games of Warhammer 40,000, and on top of that, you've got some new detachments that allow them to do some stuff that they couldn't previously do.
Demons continue. We saw the
absolutely
Demons
continue to
preview.
be an army, and will also feature in the kind of god-specific Chaos Legions
Thousand Sons,
as
Death
well.
Guard
So you
and so
can
on.
you can have either.
That was last week. So whatever it is in
So,
10th edition,
here's
it
a-
is in 11th edition.
I saw some of the new Orc units have combi weapons where the stats change. Is that a thing we can expect more of?
So yes, broadly. So
Broadly
some of the
combi
new Orc
weapons.
units, as
some combi
spotted,
weapons.
have things like combi rockets or combi scorchers, that sort of thing. And in the new stat lines, they now distinguish between what kind of thing is attached to your shooter, basically. So what we're not doing is going back to units that already exist and changing all the stats for existing data sheets.
I didn't think
What
they
you
would go
might
back and
see
change
is where
anything. They're just going to say,
appropriate,
okay,
as
if it's
Codex is
this is the
released into
rule
this
as it is in
edition,
10th
combi
edition,
weapons
this is how it's going to be in
might
11th edition,
tailor
and then
themselves
when the
into specific
codexes
needs.
come around,
Combi rockets is a great example.
maybe
Combi
you'll
rocket
get
has a
like
stat,
Space Marine characters
anti-
with an actual combi weapon. The combi weapon lieutenant might have a combi flamer,
rather than just being a
There we go.
generic combi.
but they'll all come with the
Next
codexes.
question, I've seen
There's
them
no
a few
big
times.
changes going
What
into
happens
11th
to
edition
run
beyond
herds?
main
The
rules
answer to
changes.
which is run herds still entirely exist. They're now 0 to 1 on Gretchen units. So you can have a run herd if you like, but if you want your Gretchen to be free and frolic and enjoy life, unoppressed by
Yeah,
an
do you
orc,
want your grot
Run
supervised,
herds are
basically?
optional.
Yeah, you can
Good.
choose.
and
Choose.
the question really is how long do you want them to stick
Assuming they're
around?
not going to do a Demons or Deathwatch codex,
Very
would they
good.
get updates? Maybe
when
not.
will
If
we
they're not
see
doing a codex,
a
then
battle
it'll still
report
be
for the new
compatible
edition
indexes.
on Warhammer Plus.
So yeah, that's a great question. So we will have a battle report on Warhammer Plus, which features the rules of the new edition.
Wow, this is
That battle
definitely a
report will
chosen
be landing
question.
this
Oh,
month,
I'm sure
so
some member of the
in May.
public really wanted to know what's happening on Warhammer Plus.
Next one we've got on here is a lore question. Is Armageddon the same planet as Olenor?
I mean, on the one hand, that sounds something like heresy. Pure records have probably been lost. On the other hand,
Yes, the answer is
confirmed
yes.
in
We
the
know
piece
the
of
answer is
writing.
already yes.
Heavily implied, I think.
heavily implied or confirmed.
Anything ever really confirmed in
I
Warhammer?
would bet a pint, but not my house.
Fair. So next one is, will we see points of units change in the new edition?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, they're
Loads
just
of things will change. in
asking
terms of
generally
points, infantry up, artillery
the
down, and
points
so
would
on.
change.
Just, it's going to happen. You'll see them when they come out with the balance data slates and things. I wouldn't make any big decisions now.
Well, yeah, this is not a good question to ask. But if it's something like,
Yeah,
is the
so
way
I
they're
think
going to
they-
ask
There are
questions,
some
do
themes in
points
terms of the
changing?
directions of points. So
Cheaper Exorcist would be
you can
good.
already kind of extrapolate some of the things that might be changing based on the rules that we've shown on the Warhammer.
But it
So
doesn't sound like they're doing.
Units that are
They're not mentioning
very
points per
fast
weapon?
combat moving infantry people are very good in this. Right? Like, so if you've got
But
things
The
like
balance is going to
sort
be,
of
yeah, they know that, Con Berserkers are going to be really good.
there are some units which maybe aren't as effective as they used to be. So things like artillery.
We did ask some good questions. I mean, I don't know how
still
many
definitely
people
worth
knew
having in
about
your
this
army,
FAQ
but
beyond
is
the several thousand people
relatively
that
less
watched
effective
this
than it
my video.
So
And
that
I
might
kept
cost
prodding
less
you
points,
to
so you
do
can
the
get more in
thing,
or
send
find
the
more
emails.
space for other units. And there will be a few things like that where they've kind of.
Are
worked
we going to
out
just
this
points
kind
every
of
3
unit
months?
is
Yeah,
a
of
bit
course they
better than
will.
the kind of unit
I expect they
first.
would.
But broadly speaking, the armies we run.
Army's about the same
Orc
size,
player,
right?
we
Yeah.
wrote this one. I'd like to think that if the Orcs win
Okay.
Armageddon,
I mean,
they
it
call
could have been
Warmageddon.
higher points.
I think that's a very solid shout. They definitely have a cool Orky name for it.
Higher points being good, smaller armies at the start of the edition, but it sounds like we're pretty much just continuing on.
To win Armageddon
but
outright.
winning is just the fight never ending.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If they killed all of the people they were fighting on Armageddon, they'd probably be a bit sad about it.
What else to do?
Yeah.
Invite more people.
They're probably quite
No, they're not going to add points
How
to a
does
data sheet
Norse cover
because
work
if they
on
do that,
all those
I mean, they already have that on the app, but if they did it in a codex, then
Yeah, so in the
it's
last
going to be
edition of Warhammer
invalidated
40,000,
immediately.
When you had a cover save, it was basically +1 to your armor save. And if you had a flamer that ignored cover, they didn't get that bonus. In the new edition, cover gives you -1 to hit. Most flamer weapons have
automatically hit.
torrent and have ignores cover. Torrent is, relatively speaking, a more.
No, the
useful
armies are going to
rule
be the
than
same
it used to be,
size.
because -1 to hit is a big debuff to units. But it doesn't do anything extra on top of ignores cover. So when you see flamers, when we start to roll out things like codexes, you might see some changes to stats. There isn't a specific new rule. for
Right,
ignores
okay, so
cover
torrent
that does anything
and
extra.
ignore cover,
Effect.
which are
Flamers
basically
about as good as
auto
they
hit,
were
so the
when-
ignore cover part is kind of
Yeah,
pointless.
like Overwatch,
So when flamers come out,
Overwatch,
starting with the Space Marine flamers and like the Orc burner boys, maybe, they may get better stats.
flame people automatically hit them with it.
Yeah.
I think they're still good.
Yeah, flamers are
They
great.
just,
really
They
good.
just have a slightly different impact. I'm really enjoying the flamer.
And yeah, you can auto hit on Overwatch,
Right.
is that what they're saying?
How do stealth and cover stack?
Well, they
Yeah, so
don't. Stealth and cover
is
won't
-1 to
stack.
hit. The default bonus for being in cover for many units is -1 to hit.
This is stuff we
they
already
don't
knew.
Stack. So if you're stealthy and in cover, you're not -2. The way
Because
to think
stealth
about it
gives
really
you
is
the
that
benefit of
stealth is a
cover.
way
They've
of
already
gaining
told us
cover
that.
without having to be in cover. So you are stealthy enough that you are as difficult to hit as someone in cover, even if you're.
So you have the benefit of cover twice. Yeah, that doesn't change that you have the benefit of cover.
Will Orc units still get power claws?
Yeah, absolutely is the answer. Not in the Armageddon box. Those models are all push fit, and you've seen the options.
Yep, they're push fit
but
monopose
they're-
rather than
of course,
multi-part
they still have power
monopose.
claw
So
options, and in fact,
eventually,
the
when the codex
preview
comes out in like
and
September for the
Warboss a
Orcs,
few weeks
then
back,
they'll have power
it had a
claws.
power claw option
This
on,
is
so
if
there's
they'd given me a list
evidence
of these
forthcoming
questions, I could have
Orcs.
answered all of these questions for you with 100%
Can I mix
accuracy.
heavy bolter and melter eliminators one squad?
No, you can't. Is the answer.
All right.
And simply because they have different special abilities.
Yep.
So
He meant eradicators, but sure.
Alter Eliminators are all about crowd control.
So they're either going to have different data sheets, or it'll say
blown up bit.
you can ignore everything. Does ignore cover ignore stealth? Yes, it will,
Will Tyranid armies still get to use these?
because stealth is the benefit of cover.
We'll still be able to use subterranean assault, which is particularly cool because it combos very nicely with the red terror.
Ooh.
Warhammer 40,000.
Will any changes be made?
It might be if you
falling
weren't
back
paying
out of
attention,
combat?
here's the answer. Yeah, I mean, I don't assume everyone is
Desperate escape.
looking at all the things that come out
A
every
little
day.
bit. So the main change.
I wouldn't
there
want to be like
is
that.
The way
Except
that
I am like that.
hazardous rolls work. So when you fall back from combat in some instances, you make hazard rolls. Hazard rolls now fail on a 1 or a 2, but if you fail them, for most units, you take a mortal wound for each failure, rather than just losing models outright.
Right, so
And that
Desperate
means
Escape
that if you've got,
no longer destroys the
models
model.
with multiple wounds,
It's a
you're
mortal
making
wound.
Quite a few failures before you start losing them. But failing on a 1 or a 2 is
So like a
quite
tank
hard.
falling back will take
Avoid
one
taking
hazard
a
test
mortal.
and
Possibly.
might take a wound.
Reason.
People have wanted that.
So, how many Space Marine lieutenants will we be getting in the next edition?
I think it depends how many protesters show up and demand Space Marine.
Well, they reduced the
Are there
number
still
of
boarding
Space Marine lieutenants. Ooh.
Yeah. So, in fact,
How will
boarding
sorcery and
actions
librarians
could also,
change?
roll
Psychic
into this.
weapons have ignore cover, I think, or +1 ballistic skill. I think they've
Or the
said something already.
armoured
Yeah, so all the rules that came in the supplement and expansion books on the
So
run
500 Worlds, Maelstrom, Armageddon, Return of Yarick, all of those ways of playing, those rules, those expansions.
This
perfectly
might be a
legitimate.
flat change to Hazardous and Desperate Escape. So Desperate Escape will be a hazard roll. We've seen the word hazard roll a few times.
With every objective
But it's on a 1 or a 2,
being
you fail.
piece of terrain, does this mean that every unit on an objective will get the benefit of cover, i.e. -1 to hit?
So generally it does for those units that benefit. So things like infantry, for example, one of those units where if you're on a terrain piece, you're at -. So most of the time, if you're firing an infantry unit on an objective, you'll be at -1 to hit.
Tanks in area terrain
if
don't
you
get the
have
benefit
something
of
like a
cover,
vehicle,
but if they're behind a
usually
ruin,
engineer it in
then they
such a
can
way
get the
that
benefit
you
of cover.
Park yourself on a little
Ignore
hill
modifiers, that might
and
be it.
have
Yeah.
a lump
For
of
psychic.
terrain or something between you and the thing that's firing at you. Might also be. -1 to hit. But you don't. If you're a vehicle, you don't innately get -1 being on it. And
Solid.
lore-wise,
All gone.
do we know if any other factions that aren't the main ones on Armageddon have any kind of presence?
There'll be no bits, right? So get some information. Armageddon: Return of Yarick, which obviously puts the Imperial agent, a bunch of other Imperial.
Well, we've got to have the
factions
Imperial
present.
agents
So
everywhere.
You've got obviously
Sisters.
It depends what you consider main
Got
ones,
sisters
but
on Armageddon.
And Adeptus Astartes are there in significant numbers.
Oh, we might
Adeptus
have the
Astartes
Armageddon Steel Legion in
throughout.
small numbers.
They've got base of operations there, and famous characters, the Order of the Martyred Lady, are present in great strength. But also, the Anarchists have holdings. We get.
It's an Imperial planet. There are, like, all of the Imperial factions are there in some way.
Some Votan operating as mercenaries out in one of the.
And a tiny mercenary band.
Operating out.
I really wish they'd missed out, like, all the ums and ahs and his stomach rumbling. That was not necessary.
Probably a few bits of chaos.
'Cause this isn't
but
a live
Armageddon
stream.
Kind of periodically gets
Just cut to the guy on the right,
chaosy things,
cut
doesn't
back.
it? And I
I
don't
don't
think you ever.
there's holdouts from.
Yeah,
the
you
last
never
Chaos
kind of
War, right?
completely eradicate the taint, and also if you've got lots of big hive cities and
Small amount of demons, small amount of
lots
chaos
of
cultists still.
guardsmen,
Yep.
probably got the odd cult pop.
And maybe a
So-
Custodes, why not?
Heavy transport is the header for this question. Can I use the +1 to hit on heavy weapons in the turn I disembark?
You can't have +1 to hit.
Well, no, we
Heavy
know
weapons,
this because we've
benefit,
seen the heavy
turn you
rule.
disembark.
The
Heavy
turn you
rule
set up on the
changes a little
battlefield,
bit.
you can't get the
Can
+1 to
get
hit.
+1 to hit if you've moved a little bit, so you move less than
up to
3.
3 inches,
Yeah, up to
yeah.
3. But you can't get it on the turn that you deploy or the turn that you move out from a vehicle, or if you are engaged in.
The Deathwatch index that currently exists will continue
Will swarms like the
That's what they've said.
Scarab swarm. Finally
No new
be
detachments.
two wolves?
because we're
So
just
this is a
using
question
Space Marine
about,
detachments.
Current edition of Warhammer 40,000, most infantry can effectively move through ruins, find a gap.
But the
And
smallest of
swarms
things somehow can't.
which
yeah.
felt a bit strange. In the new edition, swarms are called out alongside infantry as a unit that is basically able to move those types of terrain.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Swarms will be
This
breaching
one's,
and able to
nice
move
and easy.
things. Or I think
Will
it's called
all
mobile.
boys still have the option to have one model equip a rocket launcher or big
Which means you can
shooter,
move through
as
things.
none have that option in the Armageddon box set. The answer is emphatically. got some
Yep,
lying
so when
around.
the
You
Orc
can
Boys
make
box
them
comes
pop.
out, there will be
I'm
Power
sure-
Claw options for the knob.
Wait.
There will be a rocket
I like
launcher
this next
or
question.
big
Let me
stubber,
ask you,
big shooter
which
options
chapters are
when they come out
present
proper.
on Armageddon.
Glad you asked. Have a short list. It is not a short list.
Which chapters
There
are present
are
now
not
again? I
exhaustive.
feel like they've
Yes,
already
yeah.
answered
First
that.
of all, this is not all of them. This is just the ones that we could find, which are named. Ultramarines, Salamanders, Black Dragons, Celestial Lions, Sons of Auror, Marines, Malevolent, Necropolis Hawks, White Scars, Red Talons, Emperor Spears.
Is Inquisitor Crow linked to the Deathwatch since he hunts the Xenos? Yeah, he's part of the Ordo Xenos, and the Deathwatch are also considered part of the Ordo Xenos. So they are very much together.
Krakens, Dark Krakens, Angels of
Yeah,
Fury,
yeah, Swarms are a unit
Storm
type.
Giants.
So it's like Ripper
Plus,
Swarms,
we know there are some
Canoptek
which are not
Scarabs,
specified already.
Nurglings.
My hunch is that,
There's
That's
maybe
pretty
a
much
couple.
all of them.
yeah, they're shadowy, Unforgiven. They're knocking around somewhere. That is a lot of space.
What was the verdict on Deathwatch? It's sticking around till next edition. It's just
And a
not
lot
getting
of those are covered
dedicated
in the Operation
detachments
Imperial
like the
narrative
Space Wolves got, like the
book,
Black Templars
including
got.
like heraldries and things. A very good excuse to paint that lovely
There's
Armageddon
a
banner.
surprisingly cool amount of stuff in there.
You can
about,
have pretty much any
like
Space
what
Marine
they're all up
chapter.
to
Why
and
not?
where they're
The
operating.
Blood Angels got
Really
there, and they're meant to be on the
a
other
lot
side of the
this
galaxy right
global
now.
War being fought by loads of different Space Marine elements. They descend.
Lamenters haven't been mentioned, so we know that we might actually win as the Imperium.
Will there be an FAQ update at launch? Change existing data.
Yes, there will.
Well, yep.
Most of the data sheets
Obviously,
don't
yes.
change in addition. Most of the units are the same as they are in the Codex. There is the occasional unit where a rule might have fundamentally changed and their interaction with the game changes in some way because for rules.
It's things like
in those
leaders
instances,
always
there'll
lead.
be
You
a
need to add
small
that in.
change to-
Wording changes.
How did the Blood Angels make it across the Great Rift to fight at Armageddon? Given that the
Good
homeworld
question. That's
is
probably the
in
only
Imperial
lore
Alliance,
question that
the answer
matters.
is that most of them, frankly.
Yeah. So I think this is a really good question actually because
It touches an interesting point of the lore, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we've got Blood Angels on the box. Obviously, they're kind of the poster
How did
boys
this
of
happen?
the box
Oh,
set.
we decided it did.
They
Therefore,
are
it
synonymous
happened.
with Armageddon. They've been there a few times.
That's how they got across the
But,
Great Rift.
It's a very good question because most of the Blood Angels are based millions of miles away, right? On in Baal on the other side of the Great Rift. The Blood Angels that appear on Armageddon are effectively a small force that's managed to make it across Great Rift, and because of the kind of honor oaths that the Captor has,
They got there
at
because
Armageddon,
plot.
when they heard
The reason is
Crusade was being
because
amassed,
plot.
they were like, yes, of course.
Just
of course we're on
because
board.
Well, things
somehow
well on Bile to start
the
with,
Blood
we've
Angels
had
are
a
on
lot
Armageddon
go
again.
down in recent times, and add to that the fact that across the Great Rift, that's a heck of an ask, and it speaks to that relationship they feel. Dante was essentially the commander of operations in the Orc War.
Third War.
Grey Knights, yes, they will still be around. The Grey Knights
Anyway,
around. They're going to
so
get
you can
their
imagine that
detachments
Dante,
mentioned like
in
next week or the week
particular,
after.
feels the burden of send forces, even if he can't go himself.
Does he get, yeah, he's Regent of Imperial Nihilus. He's got loads to do, right?
Dante is elsewhere,
to
which
pay
means
for.
that Marnius
He's got lots to do.
Calgar can be leading things on Armageddon,
Will
as he
the Lion and
apparently
Gulliman
is.
finally meet this?
I mean, the galaxy is a big place, so
The Lion and
maybe,
Gilliman meet. If
maybe
it's
not.
convenient
I
for the
hope
plot,
so.
and then it'll be uninteresting.
imagine that.
The way that, like, the Armageddon
Interesting
Fourth
meeting.
War book was kind of uninteresting. Oh, we've got
Will the rule
the
book
Black
and mission
Templars are
chapter
there,
proof deck be
we've got the
available
Space Wolves
separately
there, and
in
the
the
Grey
Advanced
Knights,
Edition?
and there's beef, and there's no beef.
So basically, everything in this box.
Black Spear
will
Task Force is going
be
to get ported
available
over. That's still going to
individually
be
at some
there.
point in the future.
There's just
The
not going to be any
exception
new
being
ones
The Operation Imperator
specifically
campaign
for the
book,
Death Watch.
completely exclusive. to
Everything
the
that's in the Death
also
Watch
boxes.
index at the moment
If
is
if
carried
you're a
straight
box
over.
collector, then you'll want to pick it up, and likewise, if you want to enjoy all of the stuff that's in.
Yes, the reason is because they
is
wanted the
Lance
Blood Angels there.
A minor, is Lance a +1 or a reroll to wound?
So this was a typo on the Warhammer community website. Posted it. Roll to wound. Still +1.
Yeah, there would be no point saying, hey, Lance is actually twin linked
Now,
now.
you have to explain
As I
this
said,
terminology. I've not
This
heard it
is a
before.
mistake. We could have
Will
answered these pretty
Uppy
easily.
Downey become an official rules term?
I think this might be a joke question, but it's kind of a good question.
works.
So
Why
Uppy
not
Downey
call it
basically
leave and
has become
return,
the go-to
like I
term
do?
for units that are able to remove themselves from the board at the end of opponent's turn and then redeploy. Uppy Downey is not set
How many
to
Titans are
dominate.
still on Armageddon? As many as you think
Although
is
I
cool.
think maybe if we had like a high Gothic terminology for it, like, Ascendium Descendius or something like that, could work.
I'm just going to.
Uppy Downey. Go for it.
So,
Calling it
will
Uppy
getting into
Downey.
combat from a destroyed transport now count as a charge move?
So it doesn't count as a charge move, which means you don't get any charge bonuses back of it. There are actually
Yeah,
three
in law
ways
terms,
of
this is the
getting into
fifth
close
war,
combat
but they're also
condition.
willing to call it the
One
third
of them
war.
is charging or being charged. Another one is you're able to combat disembark in certain situations from a transport if your transport has been surrounded by orcs or something. File out and fight. And the last one is with surge moves. So this is a thing that's kind of been in the game before, but surge moves have been rationalized into a
Uppy
single
Downey's funnier.
universal rule for
Thank
everybody.
you.
So
Thank you,
basically,
Simon.
in certain instances, units will be able to move if they get shot at or targeted, and they can move D6 or enemy unit. You can get into engagement range. Surge move.
Getting into combat with your transport being destroyed is essentially the worst way to go about it.
Yes.
Pick a different method if you can. So, those of us old enough to remember the early 90s I guess late 90s, will remember this term. Are any armies being squatted in this edition? For
Are
those
any
of you who
armies
don't
being
know,
squatted?
squats,
Well, even the squats came back.
yes, the artists formerly known as squats, now Leagues of Votan. They used to exist in Warhammer 40,000.
Harlequins will still be there in the Eldar Codex, as they have been for many
People are
different
wondering
editions.
If any other armies are due to disappear.
There are no armies being squatted, and you should say League of Votans.
League of
There we
Votan,
go.
very
So
good.
demons are still going to be around all edition.
Very
Death
good.
Watch is still going to be around all edition. They're
How
not
many
going to make the same
stratagems will
mistake
each
twice.
army have in a 2,000 points game?
So in the current edition, you tend to have 6 stratagems. In the new edition, that will wiggle a little bit.
Okay,
So
this is a
because
decent
you
question.
build attachments together to make your army rules. Sometimes you will have more or less stratagems depending on which one you
Agents
pick.
are still around.
Um,
Agents detachments
Most
will
of
be
the
shown
time,
off
you will
next week or the week
have either
after.
6 or 9 stratagems.
So somewhere between 6 and 9 stratagems,
In a
depending on
2000
which
game.
detachments you pick.
Sure.
That's kind of what we thought. So there's no like selecting
Are
different
games
stratagems.
faster or slower? And the answer is they're about the same, with a little bit of nuance in where that time is spent. Is that fair?
That is fair, yeah.
So essentially,
Right.
like
About the
there's
same
some
speed for the
decisions to
game,
make
which
as
is.
you're, choosing your army and then comparing.
I don't know what you'd
you've got,
sacrifice
and
to
I
make
think
the
that
game
will take a bit more
faster.
Time, maybe
But okay.
like a competitive environment. Then perhaps
Nothing
Yes,
really
the
important's been
specific
said
thing
other
for
than
maybe
You know,
tournament games,
the things we
when
were
you meet your
concerned about
opponent,
leaving,
that
they're
the
continuing.
Force disposition you've chosen will tell you what mission to play, and that means that effectively it will tell you what battlefield to lay out. You have like a choice of a couple of battlefields. So this is where the
I
terrain.
think it will take longer
You'll
to
need
lay out the
set up
battlefields.
terrain ahead of the battle, but that takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Or it's already right layout. The game itself tends to be a bit faster, and there's a couple of reasons. One of them is because of the way that dice rolling works now. Is that fast dice rolling is assumed. So there were a few points in the previous.
Okay,
edition
I mean,
where
I don't know
you knew what you
how.
were doing,
If
you
Fail
sort
No
of slow
Pain's
down
still
your dice
around,
and go like, right,
that's
I'll
still
take
going to
this
be a
armor,
slow
take
point.
this armor. Now you just do it all at once, all the time. And the other thing that makes it a bit faster is things like when the decisions happen in the turn. So Overwatch is a really good example where previously you used to be able to trigger Overwatch.
I mean,
at the end of
Overwatch
any
wasn't
move
that
your
time
opponent did.
consuming to keep
So there was a
asking,
little bit
hey,
of
do you want to do
a
Overwatch?
phase
Just
where
assume
I'd
I'm
move
going to
a
keep
unit, and then
moving.
they'd sort of look
Watch
at you
If
for
and
you
go
want to
like,
do
"Do you
Overwatch,
want to do anything about
let
that?"
me know.
And then I'd move another unit. Now it just happens at the end of the phase. So you can just move your whole army without worrying
It's less
about
of
the
a
order you're moving
like
it
a
in,
thought
or
thing,
having
like,
to
oh,
stop
hey,
to
can
check
you
that your
pause a bit?
opponent
I need to
doesn't
think
interrupt.
if I want to do
There's a really
Overwatch.
clear moment when that would happen.
Faster with less lethality with the same amount of models. It'll probably be about the same
Leagues of
lethality,
Votan army
about the
rules
same
work.
number of
There
models.
are no objectives.
So we got this question a few times from Leagues of Votan players.
There are
I think they
objectives.
formed a league.
I think they
The
did. That must have been
terrain
what
that's
happened.
got an objective
So
marker on it is the
rules work
objective.
absolutely fine. When you play a game of the new edition, before the game starts, the map will tell you which of the pieces of terrain count as objectives.
See the
and
ones
the
with
entire
skulls
piece of
on them?
terrain
They're the
counts as
ones
an
that are
objective.
objectives.
So actually, if you've got any abilities that trigger off enemy units being on objectives, which Leagues of Votan do, lots of armies do, you get rerolls to wound.
A new version of Space Hulk, nothing's been mentioned, so
It's probably
assume
more
for now
effective
no.
now than it was in the last edition.
What happens to Imperial agents? The answer is they basically work exactly the same as they do today. They have their existing codex. They're not getting any new detachments at launch.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
right.
getting
So you
new
can still put them
detachments.
into any other Imperial army as an ally, so you put an assassin in or Inquisitor or something like that.
Oh,
The great new
great.
model obviously came
Oh,
out
well,
with the
Imperial
Armageddon models,
Agents.
yeah.
Wow, okay, that's the one
or
thing
you
that's
can use them as an
interesting.
army.
No new detachments
just
for
the same.
Imperial Agents.
How does healing work, Adam?
In a nutshell, you bring back whole models. So simply.
So there's a few mechanics in the game that allow you
Thanks
to
for
heal the
that,
unit.
Games
Most
Workshop.
of the time previously, you couldn't bring back models unless the
It's
rules
still a
specified.
codex,
Now,
but
if you
no
heal,
new
You can bring
detachments.
back whole models if you heal enough wounds.
So you did that
They're
to
the
me
same
when we
5, or
played
they
the
might
Battleshock
destroy
game
Elimination Force.
last week.
Yes,
Your
I brought some boys back.
War bosses.
I know, it's such a real faction. I was looking
The
forward
core
to new
rules for
stuff.
11th edition. Free,
But it's not getting
like in the-
squatted, so the 10th edition codex will last all through 11th edition.
on the Warhammer 40,000 app. I'll download them.
Great.
Perfect.
I've got a Dark Angel question for you.
Especially subject.
This is
Okay, you're able to get the rules on
Dark
the
Angel
40k
fan,
app.
What
Great,
colour are
good.
Vanguard veterans? Are they green or bone coloured?
First of all, whoever sent this is an excellent human being. Second of all, it really just depends. So, question comes about because obviously Vanguard veterans are first company veterans. They wear Crux Terminatus on their shoulders, which would imply within the Dark Angels that they're in the
We
Death
don't need to
Ring.
do Fs in the chat.
That would imply
It's
that
fine.
bone. We've seen the heavy metal Stern Guard, I
Some
think,
armies just don't get a
Dark Ring.
codex every edition. That has
So,
been normal
there's an argument
through
for using
every
Dark Ring.
edition of 40k.
I think the honest truth is,
Like,
that
sure,
it's
Harlequins
either
turned up in their own codex, then they're back
complication comes in
into
because the battle
Eldar.
companies 3,
Or
4, and 5,
we
then
have.
they maintain their own.
I'm trying to think of an edition. Yet Sisters didn't get a codex every edition.
Veterans aren't typically
Sometimes Space Marines got 2
Terminator
codexes.
Terminatus. I
Dark
played mine
Eldar didn't get a
as a
codex for like
Blade veteran.
4th and
Bones.
5th edition.
Mix of green. Whole problem.
You do
I'm
bone
fine. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
fine.
Hope you like the answer.
And if you don't, paint them however you like.
Are the new Custodes models that just came out for Horus
Imperial
Heresy,
Agents will
will
still
they
be
the
a
new
struggle. I
models
just
going into the...
all the detachments are going to get
Yes.
ranked, so I guess
All
they're
the
all like
plastic,
2
custodies that have been released. Will
2 points probably. This is a fine level of cope. This is an acceptable amount of cope.
Which units in the Armageddon box will be released separately?
No, you release separate releases in the
There you
future.
go.
So
Well, that
this
was a
question
great
has,
answer to a question.
couple
As
of
to
layers
answer
it.
that question,
First of all of them. The only thing that's truly exclusive we talked about before is Operation Imperator and the box.
yeah, I do wish the agents were
So
supported because they
you
can
could
be really
expect to
fun,
find
but
the
they're
other models
not.
in other sets or sold separately.
And you saw similar things with the Leviathan set
Exactly.
we had for
Yeah,
the
I
last
think
edition.
all of the.
Yeah.
Huh.
On somebody's fishing, Eddie.
Mm.
Which are the first codexes?
orcs and
I think the
space
idea of that
marines.
question was
As a
saying,
prize,
hey,
you probably
custodes that currently exist
Absolutely. Okay, so pushing the boat
in
out.
the new models for
the
Horus Heresy,
third.
yeah, you can use them in
One
40k,
after the
no
second.
problem. They're custodes. And we've
Okay,
already said
points.
everything said.
How many points is each side in the Armageddon launch set if you were to work out their points value?
So they are about 750 points. So not exactly, but roughly
So we're not
speaking,
giving
you've got a
them
council
actual
patrol
points.
and then a bit more. So about
Couldn't figure it out
750.
exactly, but
Yes, if we
because
play
that would
Combat
mean
Patrol,
revealing
it
like an amount of
quite a lot.
points and how many points an orc boy is.
Okay.
So they're each about 750 points. That hasn't been the way in all the previous launch boxes. One side, usually the Space Marines, has had much more points.
So you don't need to have the Combat Patrol companion to play Combat Patrol. All of the rules for Combat Patrol will be free, and you'll be able to get them in the Warhammer 40,000 app. So all
Yeah,
the stuff
they'd
you
already
need on
said the Combat
detachment,
Patrol
they
things
just-
would come on the app.
all rules and everything in the Warhammer 40,000.
An interesting piece of nuance there. The Combat Patrol Companion answers the question: if you were completely new to Warhammer 40,000, or somebody in your gaming group is, and you've got the core rules. In the past, sometimes the core book for Warhammer 40,000 has hundreds of pages of lore, and the core rules that come inside Armageddon and separately don't have any lore particularly in it. And so I've seen like, where's the lore? Combat Patrol Companion book has bucket loads of great lore. The
Combat Patrol book has all the lore, right?
Fantastic transition point for you. Get your core book, get your Combat Patrol Companion.
We'll see how good the app is and how many versions of the app there are. There might be like playing a battlefield app. There might be an army building app that you then add into the playing the battle app, and then a Combat Patrol app.
What's the deal with Crusade in the new edition?
I mean,
all right, tell us about
that's a fairly
Crusade.
simple one. So first of all, if you've got a 10th edition Codex, Crusade rules still work. You can play Crusade games to your heart's content and have a great time with it. Crusade, like content going forward, you won't find that in your codexes. Narrative package. So Maelstrom would be right.
Yes. So
that's where you can expect to find that sort of
Right.
There was a really cool little set of rules in the Maelstrom book, which was Crucible of Champions.
Yeah. So
which-
custom heroes.
Yeah, basically allows you to kind of create custom heroes and give them cool war gear, and people have been having loads of fun either like painting up cool stuff or even converting models to do it. And that's the sort of way that content that's like Crusade will release.
So things like
we know
Crusade,
loads of people
not
love to
Crusade.
do Crusade-like things, but the codexes going forwards won't have Crusade content. The things that
It
would
sounds like they're
feel
dropping
like
Crusade, as we thought.
will release in things that look a bit like the mail.
Indirect fire and hidden. How does that work?
So
They're about to say something about indirect fire rules.
when
Like that,
you
that shuffle was good.
right when you choose a target, if you've got indirect fire, you can choose something that you can't see. So you could choose a hidden enemy unit, even if they're
That makes
hiding away
sense.
at the back of the battlefield, which is kind of how you'd expect artillery would work. But the only thing in the game that can do it.
Yeah, they could have really edited this
If
video.
you choose something you can't see, you hit them on 6s unless you have a unit nearby in your army that can see them.
All right,
So
that's a bit more
if you've
interesting.
got something like Basilisk at the back of the board.
So if we have Seraphim that can
and you're taking
see,
completely speculative shots, you're going to be hitting very rarely. It might still be worth it if there's a one model parked on an objective.
Well,
or,
or you just don't have anything else you can
Or
shoot.
nothing
right?
else.
so this
Yeah,
stops
it's
me
quite common in
shooting
the first
straight into
edition
the enemy
game.
deployment zone to try and
But
blow
later,
up
if
their
you've got
unit
something
on
like
their home
Sentinel or
objective.
some rattlings or something that's like shimmying
Spotters,
their way
yeah.
forward, and they've spotted an enemy unit, you can hit them on a much more reliable roll.
Like that. It
More
gives you
reliable
wing
roll. It
flows
might be
and
-1
stuff
to
like
hit
that.
then.
So this next question, and you could read this one in a couple of ways. How do aircraft work? Now I assume this is all
Sean.
about aerodynamics and
Sean,
physics of how wings
always
pass
rep the
over
battle
the
sisters.
wings.
I'm not sure that was.
Yeah,
the
it is a bit
first
like
one.
bold
I think it
action,
might
I
be more
know,
how
I know.
aircraft work in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000.
In which case they move on by ingress.
Yeah, they work very well.
Fine.
So all
Aircraft
the
apparently
planes
work,
and aircraft
sure.
in your force basically start the game in reserve.
Sure they
move
do.
on to
All
the
right,
game
yeah,
through an
so
ingress move,
they start in
which is the
reserves.
way that you would deploy from reserve.
Yeah, it sounds fine for indirect. It's not overpowered.
You can basically put them anywhere around the edge of the battlefield and kind of get yourself a bombing run or a strafing run against something. And then at the end of your opponent's turn, they remove themselves from the battlefield and they can come on again in your next turn for another strafing run. So they're quite a useful tool to put heavy weapons
It's a bit guess
wherever
range,
you would
yeah.
like a big platform of heavy weapons to be and kind of take out enemy tanks or bomb enemy units.
Right, so the way aircraft work, you set them up on the
Will
table
we
as
see
an
a
ingress
return
move in
to
your turn.
Granular points.
We got quite a few people
Granular
asking
points,
about
granular points. Okay,
kind
let's
of
find out about granular
and
points.
that sort of thing.
I don't care about aircraft.
The answer is yes, a bit.
But not to the extent where you're spending 1 point.
Yeah, we're not going back to the
So
days
it
of like
may
I
be
did
as I've
bolt pistol,
predicted.
so it costs 1 point. There are some big
Multi-melt
items
is
of
like
war
10
gear
points?
that fundamentally change the way that a unit might work. So an example, when we were talking to the rules guys, was something like a Riptide. Has a few big guns that do fundamentally different things in the game. They might have a slightly different point depending on.
I think it'll be things like, hey, if you want your battle sisters with all flamers, that's free.
Too much about like exactly which weapons you're.
If you want them with like a multi-melter,
when you get to
5
really
points
big
more.
stuff, which has like big changes in terms of its function on the battlefield, you might see some.
Nice.
I'd like
Is
that.
the box temporary? Will it sell out and never be back? The answer to that is yes. Is temporary? Is
Yes, it will sell out and never be
It's a
back.
really big
Or
number.
it's
There's,
temporary.
loads of them. But if you want one, we do recommend you order it early.
Hey, that's a good thing to find out about points.
Yeah, you can't have this one.
That is the points I requested. That's what we did at the end of 9th edition.
You can have that.
So I was
on the
surprised
show.
at the start of
There's
10th
a full
edition
one
when
on
they
my
just
desk.
skipped over it.
Okay. This is the
Depends
question
how
everybody
granular they want to
wants
be.
know the
Oh, it's like a
answer to.
plasma pistol
How
going to
many
cost more
Myers
points
Calgar
because that is
miniatures
better
can
than
we
a
expect to get
las
in
pistol.
the 11th
It's a
edition
great question. We had
of
hundreds
Warhammer
of people
40,000?
asking this. Enough money
Is
as
there,
Calgar.
is there ever truly enough?
Can Imperial Knights still use Horus Heresy units? Heresy
Yes.
era Knight chassis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will there be allies in 11th edition?
So you'll have allies in the way that you do today. So
So as
you can ally
expected,
in Chaos
allies will
Knights
work
or
as they do.
Imperial agent units in Imperial armies. But we're not going back to full allied forces where you had things like
Now,
Eldar
aircraft
and
don't pick
Tau
up and
fighting
put down every
alongside each
turn.
other.
You'll put
We're
them
not
on in
going
your
back to
turn, they
just-
leave at the end of the enemy turn.
So
The enemy
think
can still
part
hit
of
them.
Where this question's come from is because we've been talking about detachment. Previous edition,
Aircraft as
Staple
spotters?
them.
you sort of attach
Maybe.
detachments together. A detachment is an ability that you choose which affects your entire army. So if you had, you say, I've got a Space Marine army, and maybe you've got one detachment that interacts with your intercessors, and you've got another detachment that interacts with librarians. All of those rules would apply to everything in your army that's got the appropriate keywords. So if you joined a librarian to your intercessor squad, they would be able to benefit from both sets of detachments. So you can do some quite powerful combos with certain different armies.
Nice. Do armies get any bonuses? For
They didn't
not
really
using
explain anything about
all
allies other than
attachment points?
as we do now.
No.
No.
So use them or lose them.
Use them or lose them.
You really might as well just pick another. Like if you got one detachment point left over, just pick a detachment and use it because there may be.
I don't think it was that bad that
benefit
the
to it
sisters didn't get their Dawn of War flyer.
Yeah, and it's 3 detachment points in 2,000
It's
points.
fine.
If you play in smaller games, you might get slightly less, or bigger games, you might get. Occasionally, there is attachments that will only.
No
impact
mention of,
one
like,
model in
off-board
your army.
artillery.
So there's a few for Space Marines, Emperor's Champion, has got one. There's some for Genestealer cults, which impact some of your kind of smaller units, so that they can be quite. Even if you've only got one model, you're like, yeah, why not? I've got a point left. I'm not doing anything else with it. You might as well use it.
Not going to do anything.
Well, we'll have to see what happens
I
in the
like this
Gene
next
Stealer
question.
cult.
What happens to the
Things.
drop pods after they land on a planet? Are they left there, or are they picked up and reused?
So the Imperium is weird.
Dawn of War is
isn't
how
it?
you got
In
your
that it's
sisters. That's a
simultaneously
good starting point. It's fun. You can like
incredibly
customize the.
Demand
So
just
really,
tips 50
like,
funny
pretty nice.
vampire man on
Not
copium. What is
losing
your
things that
wisdom?
it considers of value,
What is the
right?
wisdom?
So, at the end of
Thank
any
you,
battle,
Simon
you
J.
imagine that
It's going to be
Marines
that,
and
hey,
camp
things are
serfs
pretty much the same as they are right now.
you reclaim
That's
and
the general
recover
thing. And we won't really see
everything that they
changes
can.
to
And
things
that
other than the
includes
core
drop pods. I
rules
like the idea that
until the
drop
first
pods,
codex has come out.
become more honoured the more successful drops that they.
Yeah, you can also imagine that maybe every now and again there's one that gets lost somewhere if the Space Marines all kind of died on mission or something, and then the local ecclesiarch sort of take it away.
We need
and
some
make a
special
nice little
markers.
shrine
Yeah,
out
we
of
should
it or
probably have
something,
some
but-
special
Yeah, we think
markers
they
to mark
mostly
all
get
these special
reclaimed.
abilities, like
There are
hidden
interesting bits of lore
and
about
battle
the lengths
shocked
to
and
which
stuff.
Chapters will go to reclaim war gear.
Someone should really make those sorts of markers. I wonder when they would come out.
As long as the drop pod in any way survives impact, it's done its job, and that's worthy of like honouring its spirit, isn't it?
They're talking a long time
What
about a drop
changes are there
pod.
to psychic
I think these are
powers?
people that know the lore
So
more
there
than
are
they
some
know the
changes to
game systems.
the way psychic powers work. The main thing is that psychic attacks now basically ignore modifiers to hit and win.
There we go. So they said the thing about Psyker.
Previously, psychic was mostly just a keyword that attached to units, and you'd have like buffs against it, or maybe abilities would trigger on psychic units. Now, if you have psychic as a keyword on a weapon, particularly in the shooting phase,
Okay,
it
so
does
psychic
extra.
attacks.
So
Yeah,
effectively you get
ignore
free mortal
modifiers.
cover, so no
Good,
minuses to
good.
hit. But also, if the enemy's got any abilities on their data sheet or they used any stratagems that lower the wound roll, you can ignore it.
Sure. When playing
Wonder if
against
Efriel Stern will get a bonus.
games,
She's not a
which rules
psyker.
would be recommended to be used? Strike force or incursions?
So you
Ooh, there's my
effectively
question.
count as playing strike
Our
force,
question.
so 1,000 points.
Up to 1,900.
Up until 1,999 points. So you hit the 2,000 point mark,
Yeah.
and then you tick over into the next size of game effect.
Oh, that's different. Okay, that is different
do
to
Adam
previous.
And Eddie have any personal favorite detachment combos?
So you essentially
So
play
I've been
1,000
looking
points
quite hard
until
at
you are
things
playing
that I can
2,000
use.
points. Rather than the way it has
Likes
been now, where
to,
up to
work out
1,000
the combo.
points is
I
one,
really enjoy
and up
using
to
the Lion
2,000
Blade
points
Strike
is
Force,
another.
And so there's a couple of 1-point attacks.
None of the
which
sisters
I'm
are getting
looking
psychic
and
stuff.
sandwich
Stop
them
with this heresy.
Of maximum Raven win.
So if you play 1,500 points, it's incursion. Right.
So I got a couple. So I've been playing quite a lot
Psychic
of Space
attacks for
Wolves.
the Magus
They
again.
haven't
Don't
done
be
it, quite
silly.
fun.
The psychic attack was
Most
moved
of
to the
their codex
Benefactus,
detachments
so that
are
character
2
could exist.
detachment points means that I'm looking at the kind of the new ones, which are mostly 1. So I like the look of the veteran
1,500
flank,
points also
thing that
means you'll only get
stops
2
Grey
detachment
Hunter
points.
units.
If you're playing under the
quite
strict
like having
rules.
Grey Hunters and Najal Stormcaller.
The Monofuge is
having
not
that unit be
psychic.
able to do
She does
actions
psychic-like
for the whole
things,
campaign is quite
but
useful.
even when there was a
And that
psychic
looks good.
phase, she didn't
And
do
then
things
I'm
in the
also looking
psychic phase.
at, the Gene Stealer
Or if she
one,
did, it wasn't
which I'll do a
psychic.
video about quite soon. There's some really, really good ones for them, and I'm taking all.
Good.
Nice.
Good Gene Stealer cult stuff coming.
How much will the Armageddon box set cost?
We can't give you the exact price, but we can tell you it's a little bit more than the Leviathan box.
Can't give the exact price of how much it'll cost, but more
When
than
can I buy it,
Leviathan,
Adam?
so like
You can
£180.
buy Warhammer
So
40,000
expect like
Armageddon
350
in
Australian
June.
dollars.
Watch this space for more information. Fixed date closer to.
I think that's our last.
That is our last question.
We know
It's
it's gonna be in
been
June
Really fun to go
at
through
some
these
point.
and to provide some answers. Hopefully, you found it interesting as well. I've enjoyed it.
Always fun to talk Warhammer.
Yeah, tournaments might play
Nice. So,
1,500 points, but
if you've
counted as
enjoyed
2,000.
The answers and something that you'd like to see again, drop some comments in the chat, either wherever you're watching this. Just let us know. And if
I mean, the
you respond
999 points,
positively,
but
maybe
plus
we'll do another
1, so you spend like
we didn't answer your
995
question, you
points.
did
That
spend
doesn't
one in.
mean
Well,
That's
that
why.
you're playing
Well, yes,
incursion.
exactly so. If you didn't send
It's
it,
the
then
amount
can't
you
be covered
decide
in
is the
answers.
maximum.
There.
That
Nice.
sets
My
the
stomach
size
is
of game that
rumbling.
you're playing.
Like, poor old.
No, it won't be the first
stomach,
week in
but
June. It'll
buttons
be
are
like
still open.
the
We just go
probably
up
near
next
the end
week.
of June.
Nice. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you next
How
time.
much was Leviathan again? I'm pretty sure it was £150. Some British pounds. Okay. But we did get some interesting answers. Of our questions, we got quite a few responses. For the Death Watch, I heard what they said. They said, like, if you're playing a Space Marine version of Death Watch, you can still use their detachments. So it's as it has been for the last year and a half. £151 British pounds. Well, it'll go higher than that. What questions were missed? Let's see. So they did answer our question about 1,500 points. Do we use incursion or strike force rules? I think they pretty much answered that word for word, or read it out as a question word for word. So that means we got through. It's almost like doing these community things and bothering Games Workshop has been successful, somewhat, this time. Changing points values for weapons. We know that there will be some minor changes to like some of the weapons depending on what you pick. For example, perhaps if you pick an immolator and you have heavy bolters on top, it doesn't cost as much. It depends how much they want to go with it. They've said if it fundamentally changes the role that the weapon plays. So I'm thinking like the Devil Dog, Bane's, the Hellhound for the Imperial Guard. Melter weapon compared to Flamer weapon, maybe. They said, how long should a 2,000 point game? They said about the same time as currently, but it will take longer to set up the board because you've got to pick the deployment maps and then you have to arrange the area terrain, assuming you're doing that, which they seem to really want you to. Didn't say anything about boarding actions. That wasn't mentioned. Didn't mention a tournament companion. But I would guess one of those may still come out because they want to support the tournament scene. They didn't say anything about, hey, this new terrain we're bringing out, you have to use it or you don't have to use it. But again, we're waiting on that being in the actual rules for it to matter. Them saying again, as we said in the article, the thing in the article is true. It just depends if they were able to confirm, hey, okay, you said that we need to include this in the rules. It is actually in the rules, or it's not in the rules, and we need to fix that. For Crusade, we know there's not going to be any Crusade books made, and if you get an 11th edition codex, it's not going to have a Crusade section. However, campaign books will still be released. We'll still get fun stuff like we did with Maelstrom. Anything about the create your own character generator? Just that there will be things like that in 11th edition. They haven't said what you do with like the Maelstrom, that still works. For now, I see no reason why it wouldn't work. They did mention boarding actions, did they? I didn't hear anything about boarding actions. Said it works the same as it did in 10th edition with mission packs from last year. Oh, right, yeah, 500 worlds. There's 500 worlds. Basically, any books that have come out since January, including detachments that came out since January, are compatible with 11th edition. For example, the Space Marine Bastion Task Force, that Ultramarine version of the Gladius Task Force, they are all still there. They didn't mention anything Onslaught, 3,000 points or more, and there's been nothing in the rules about that size game, with the exception of Eye of Terror book came out, well, like last month or a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago sounds about right. When was it? Like 3 weeks ago. So that's got rules for bigger games in it. Is the spotter for indirect and action or just line of sight? It just said line of sight. If you've got someone who can see the enemy unit that's hidden, then indirect fire can still target them. So essentially the rules for indirect fire is if you're firing directly, use ballistic skill. If you're firing indirectly, you only hit on a 6. If you've got one of your units that can see the enemy unit, not necessarily, well, obviously not the one that's firing indirectly, then there'll be something like -1 to hit. And that'll be it. Will Legends be included on the app? They said not right away, but when the Codex has come out and units that are in the Codex move to Legends, those Legends units will still be on the app. I don't know if they mentioned the app being free, just that there will be some app, maybe multiple apps. They didn't say, or like they didn't make it clear what's going to happen with Legends in terms of rules, but they have elsewhere said, hey, you know, you can keep using these rules, and since we know that Legends are going to be in the app, just not the ones coming out at the start of the edition. Can allies spot for you? Yeah, I'd expect so. Because it would be like a unit in your army. So I don't know why they wouldn't. Calendars could become more valuable? I think you probably want something cheaper. Free rules, yes, so the core book will be free and it will also be on the app. So you can still see the rules on the app. Heresy Custodes will still be around? Yeah, so anything that is as it is right now in terms of rules and units you can take, that continues. Which means that, hey, the Emperor's Children haven't got it listed that they can use a lot of the Horus Heresy kits. No mention if that's going to be fixed. Some pot shots hitting on a 6. I wouldn't want to hit on a 6, though. But you would fire at something that some other unit of yours can see. That would be good. Then, from the sound of it, -1 ballistic skill is better than it is right now. Because you can only hit on a 4, so if you were able to hit on a 2+, then -1, then you can hit on a 3. Because the Exorcist used to have heavy. Doesn't at the moment, but in the index it did. In the codex it doesn't. Not bad. Does the Cyclops demolition vehicle count as a spotter? I see no reason it wouldn't. So it was that anything, as soon as a codex has come out for a faction, so the Space Marine codex is coming out, then anything that's in Legends for Space Marines is on the app. Rather than anything that's in Legends at the moment gets deleted forever. And anything that was in the previous codex's Legends would be there. So you'll still have like assault squads, firstborn assault squads. They'll be there, but they won't appear on the new app until the Space Marine Codex is released. Indirect fire with a big template. And then you scatter the template and argue about where the template goes. Yeah, it doesn't feel great about the stealth keyword, where stealth is just the benefit of cover when you're in the open. If you're in cover, well, anyone can hide now. Pretty much anyone can hide. Anyone's infantry. Yeah. Having like a unit arrive from Deep Strike just to spot could be useful. So that's where we get the Battle Sister detachment, which is Seraphim plus Exorcists. It's there to spot for your Exorcists. I think I'll be taking that detachment all of the time. 1,000 points? Well, I think I'll have that detachment and the character detachment. Did they mention how lone operative interacts with the Tau army ability? So you need to be able to see someone, and lone operatives are not visible outside of 12 inches. That's how they changed it. Stealth and hidden are confusing at the moment. Well, stealth is the benefit of cover, same as just being in cover. Hidden is different. Hidden is where you cannot be seen if you're more than 15 inches from a unit. And if you haven't shot in the previous turn or current turn. If you're going in all guns blazing, you're going to be seen. Turn 1 Deep Strike would be good for spotters. It depends if you got the space. And remember, you can't see through any of the terrain. From one side of the terrain to the other side of the terrain, you can't see through them. So it's why the barricade terrain is very important. If everything is in their deployment zone, pretty much everything should be hidden. I don't know if the game will be more lethal. It'll have a lot more trading bits, I think. You move some units into the terrain, they can now be seen, they can be shot, same as now, but they've got hidden as a way to keep long-range firepower down. There's -1 ballistic skill, which is more effective because things that were things that were armor penetration 0, the benefit of cover didn't usually apply. If you had like a decent armor save. Battle Sisters in terrain, in 10th edition, getting shot at by AP 0, we got no benefit whatsoever. Now the enemies will be -1 to hit us. Yeah, old area terrain completely locks blind line of sight, so it's called obscuring. If you're behind it, you cannot be hit at all. You're not visible. And then missiles will come in and destroy the enemy, because in direct fire, you don't need to be able to hit an enemy that's visible. The exception being lone operatives. You can't use artillery to snipe a lone operative. What did they say about Torrent and ignores cover? Does that do anything? So Torrent is auto hit, which means the benefit of cover being -1 ballistic skill doesn't affect them. Ignore cover is therefore kind of useless. They've said what they'll do is, as the codexes come out, starting with Space Marines and Orcs, they may change some of the keywords and strength and AP of the different flamers to give them something to like compensate for having a redundant special ability. If the game is meant to take about the same amount of time as now, it's probably going to be a very similar amount of lethality. But it's looking like combat units are going to be very important. But they said when they were talking about points, like a points adjustment going into the next edition, infantry will go up in points. Combat infantry will go up more in points. I'm assuming, if they didn't already say that, artillery will come down in points. An affordable exorcist would be really nice. Yes, please and thank you. That'd be great. What other questions did we get answered? Oh, that's pretty much everything, isn't it? What about Legends? No, but really, what about Legends? What about the app? What about Crusade books? What about boarding actions? What about terrain? Is there going to be a tournament companion? Did they mention most of these questions being from a cute vampire? I don't believe they did, because unless you all said, by the way, Christian Von Carmian sent me, they're not going to know. No return of the psychic phase. Absolutely not. They should give torrent weapons back the Wall of Death rule. Well, the Wall of Death rule was about if you charge someone and they fire Overwatch. Overwatch in 7th edition and 8th edition was automatic. Definitely in 8th edition. It was kind of a pain to roll. Now it's if you fire Overwatch, which is in the movement phase, you auto-hit. But we have that from Torrent. Did they say anything about Deathwatch? Yes, they did. Deathwatch index is sticking around. That's about the fullest amount of it. So we have Deathwatch still is Imperial Agent units in the Imperial Agents Codex and Faction Pack. The Deathwatch Index is still there, and the Deathwatch, although they don't get any dedicated detachments of their own, the way the Blood Angels and Black Templars have, they can still use all of the Space Marine detachments if you're playing Adeptus Astartes Deathwatch. So my Bastion Task Force is fine. The not Corvus Black Star detachment that's actually about Land Raiders now, that's going to stick around. By the way, the non-Blood Angels vampire sent me. Yeah. Minus 100% chance that anyone actually asked about a battle report on Warhammer Plus. Yeah. Yeah, Imperial Agents not getting any more detachments. Does that mean that the really silly, absolutely terrible Assassin detachment is going away? Could be. Could be. Shadowmark Talon looks like it's going. Maybe. What might happen there is it sticks around, and then when we get the 11th edition Space Marine Codex, which is probably going to be like September, that one detachment that came in the 10th edition Codex that's very Raven Guard themed, that will be changed into the Shadowmark Talon. So it'll be basic Shadowmark Talon plus an extra bit if you play the Raven Guard character, which is how it is now. So I expect that will stay and become part of the detachments in the Codex. Vanguard Spearhead, yeah, that sounds right, yeah. So that'll stick around and be in the Codex. Anyone can use it. However, there's an extra thing if you take the Raven Guard character. I know at the moment it says only Raven Guard can do that. I think they'll just tweak it. Merge and tweak. Because they don't want bloat. They had so much bloat in 9th edition because every supplement from 8th edition was also valid. So something they brought out at the end of 2017 was still going at the start of 2023. It's quite a while. Black Spear Task Force still lives, yes. Yes. There is no reason to think the Black Spear Task Force is going. We've had it the whole time. Our new Grotmus detachment, if you remember, was getting Black Spear Task Force again. Basically identically, but with a worse written rule so that it was confusing as to how mission tactics works. I would also like it if the Space Marine detachments were themed around chapters and had an extra bonus if you use the right character. Because that's pretty much the only way to get the keywords. Any hopes for my factions in 11th edition? We'll see. Yeah, there's only going to be real changes coming when the 11th edition Codex has come out. Then we'll see properly what's actually happening this edition. So it's going to be till September that we're actually waiting. Till then, we've got this stuff. Slight rules changes. Pretty much enforced terrain layout. I've laid it out and it does take like 10, 20 minutes to lay out. Depends if you've got 1 or 2 people. How many? They didn't say anything about detachment points other than the same thing they've been saying for the past week. If it's a detachment they've shown off on the Warhammer community that I've talked about, I might have talked about it, it's 1 detachment point. Pretty much all of the detachments in the rulebook, the codexes, they're going to be 2 detachment points with the occasional exception. Some of them will be 3 detachment points. The idea being, if there is a detachment that works for your whole army and makes everything good, maybe like Gladius Task Force as an example, that'll be 3 detachment points. Yeah, so good. Nothing is awful. It's just unfortunate that the Imperial agents are not getting new detachments. Just print table-sized layout card. They'll do that at tournaments. And then they'll say, hey, this is the battlefield you're playing over in all of them. What order are my sisters? They are the Silver Gauntlet, which is an offshoot of the Sacred Rose. So it's white with silver gauntlets, and they have red robes rather than black robes. Very easy and bright and colourful, rather than monochrome black and white. I wonder if you can use shop coupons. If you can't use shop coupons, in the description of this video, I have discount codes for paintbrushes and things, and also lots of links to affiliates who can give you the stuff cheaper than going through Games Workshop. Grey Knight hammers. Oh, they didn't mention anything about Grey Knight hammers. But it seems like when they mentioned combi weapons, that again is something that will only change with the codexes, as the codexes come out. Then we'll see that, okay, in this case, the Orc Nob has two different options for their gun, depending on if you want a combi shooter or a combi rocket. And again, Space Marines, if you get the... who has a combi weapon besides the combi weapon Lieutenant? Stern Guard will probably just stay as generic combi weapons. The combi weapon Lieutenant might get a Torrent Flamer. Do I have any merch? Not currently. Not right this minute. Not at the moment I'm speaking. Not early May 2026. Not right now. There is no merch. How much do you get when how much money do I get when you use affiliate links? It depends on the company, it depends on my arrangement, it depends what I've been able to bargain and wrangle. So it's a relatively small amount. If you can look somewhere and find it says, hey, we offer this amount of money or percentage, it's either that or slightly better. You don't play Genestealer Cult? Well, you should. You want a Von Carmian miniature Celestine proxy. That's an idea. I wonder if I could get... I wonder what standees, like little standing cards. They'd be like 2D and thin. But if you can get the right size, there's a good character. Grey Knights will still be an army. Yeah, and their detachments, their new detachments will be shown off in like a week's time or in 2 weeks' time. It's all fine. It's all good. Grey Knights still exist. And maybe they'll get new models, maybe they won't. We don't know. That'll depend on later in the edition. Can you use the Aegis Defense Line as Genestealer Cult? Yes, you can. It's not aircraft, it's not epic hero, it's not religion or an abhuman. So yes, you can use that. TLDR, most things are, as I said, they would be basically fine. We're not going to know about major changes until the codexes come out. Legends will exist in the app, but only once the codexes come out. Deathwatch are not getting new detachments, but they continue to exist. So it's kind of like Demons, except Demons got new detachments. The reason being, the new detachments for the Deathwatch are the ones I've already mentioned in my recent Deathwatch video. They're the Space Marine ones. What was that one called? That was... What Chaos Demons reveals mean for Deathwatch in 11th edition. That's the video to watch. That shows off the 3 new detachments that the Deathwatch can use as Adeptus Astartes. Combining the Librarian one with the Bastion Task Force is what I'm looking at. That seems really good. That's what I'm going for. The one with Land Speeders, The one with Scouts, well, we don't have Scouts. The one with Spectre, like the Spectre's kill team in the Phobos armor. That could be fine. That could be fine. If you're playing a 1,000 point game or up to 2,000 points, but distinctly not 2,000 points, then I would just stick with Black Spear Task Force or the Bastion Task Force, like one of the core ones. Will Soup return as a valid way to play? I'm pretty sure they have said that they're not going to do Soup detachments. So there's not going to be any new Imperial Agents detachments, we know that. They're not going to do an like Imperial Knight detachment when you stick it into another faction. It's just that you can add the model, like the unit, in with a special army rule, and that's about it. Aegis Defense Line could be a silly model because your opponent cannot charge the units behind. And if they aren't terrain, they can't shoot it. Yeah, I see that. I see that. Nothing new for Deathwatch, but we persist. That's how it is. Why am I assuming the index stays? Because that's the place that all of our unit rules are. And that's how we have an Adeptus Astartes army. That's what they said. Like, Deathwatch Adeptus Astartes. I'll rewatch it and double check on that section, but I'm not seeing anything that suggests that, we're going to basically delete Deathwatch. No, I think that at some point, maybe not right away, the veteran kill team will be moved to Legends, because they don't sell that anymore. And when they do, if you look up Deathwatch Kill Team, which is the Imperial Agent's name for the Deathwatch veterans, it brings up the Aquila Kill Team / Decimus Kill Team. So that could go. We also don't know the points of fortifications. It could be something like 170 points for an Aegis defense line. It wouldn't block line of sight itself. It wouldn't give you hidden, unless they change the rules. But it would give you the benefit of cover. From all the things I've heard them saying, pretty much everything about factions is the way things are now is the way they will continue. Demons are not being split up and put into different books, as people have wanted them to be or suggested they would be since 2015 when Age of Sigmar was released, and that separated out the demons into separate god books, where it was essentially World Eaters, but it's fantasy plus Khorne demons. You're thinking all the datasheets get different abilities. So going into 11th edition, no, unless there is a rule that doesn't work. Things like the Palatine gets lethal hits as long as they're leading a unit will change to, if the Palatine started the game leading a unit, they have lethal hits. Or models in this unit have lethal hits. Which means it will persist even if all of the battle sisters they were with all died. Regular intercessors still have things like more attacks if all they shoot the same thing. Well, we've seen that in the Armageddon box, that is their rule. Where did I do that? That was a video about the Armageddon box and things it showed off. They have the two rules. They have the sticky objectives, and they also have a, if you shoot everything at them, then you get more shots. It's surprising, I know. Do you think the addition of Legends units into the app will help normalize their usage in casual play? Do you think they will continue to be supported in the app? Yes. Yes, and yes. If people can see in the Games Workshop app, here are your units, sure they have a Legends tag, but here are your units, and maybe you can click on the Legends tag and it'll say this is not recommended for tournament play, that'd be it. That's all. It's how it works in Age of Sigmar. You bring a Legends unit and no one questions it. Yeah, the Tyranid Prime with Lash Whip. They have the updated language for it. Yes. To say, hey, this unit has sustained hits. It probably needs to add a, if this leader started the game leading a unit, this unit has lethal sustained hits. Because you can have leaders by themselves, support characters you can't have by themselves. As examples from our faction, say... Chaplain is a support character. You can't have them by themselves. Or an apothecary is a support character. You don't have by themselves. But a captain is a leader. You can have them by themselves. And they have an ability so that if they're leading a unit, the thing happens. Or lieutenants will be leaders. Or maybe they support. Because then you can combine lieutenants and captains together sometimes, can't you? Yeah, lieutenant could be support. That would make sense. I was wondering if the abilities that grant free stratagems will change since you can't attack stratagems now. I very much doubt they will. It'll just be that, hey, you used one stratagem this battle round, that one is free, or one command point cheaper. That's the current version. Even though that wasn't it at the start of 10th edition, even though it took several tries in balance patches to change that. Do you remember at one point it was only battle tactics are free? And then the Battle Sister Codex came out, and almost every stratagem in there was battle tactics. That was part of why they were so strong when they came out. the canoness can make any of our stratagems free, whereas some of the Space Marine detachments, they were looking at, ooh, yeah, you've got like 2, Chief. Damned Legionaries is a tasty data sheet. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not the best one. It's kind of like a Celestians with guns. I have recommended it as a Celestians with guns because it's like 5 guys, 1 heavy weapon, 1 special weapon. Just not as good as it could be on account of its legends. They don't update it. They don't make it strong. There's no legends datasheet that's really strong. At best, they're like a slightly different version of a datasheet that already exists. Will having 1 to 3 detachments make the game super killy? Probably not that much killy. A little bit more killy. Yeah, because you'll have like 2 detachment rules. So when they were mentioning, oh, let's combine librarians with something else, then it would be really good. So there'll be a bit more power, but that's modified by all of the things that are reducing things. Because, what do we say? Hidden is now there. That pretty much reduces the range of almost all weapons down to 15 inches. Reducing the basic range of all of the guns is a way of doing that. Ooh, someone got a gifted membership. Very nice. Why would I want to change this to a members-only live stream? No. Have more members. When am I doing a battle report with Paul? I don't know. It's something we could do at some point. It's something we could do at the start of 11th edition and actually show off how the rules work. Other people may be able to do that better than us who have like battle report setups. Our battle reports are more likely to be silly and funny. Since Psychic ignores modifiers to hit and wound, does this mean +1 from Terminate Sorcerer and +1 to wound? So it'll be, you can ignore those things. So if you have your own +1 to hit that you want to apply to your unit, you get to keep that. If it's an enemy -1 to wound, such as the Orcs, Hard as Nails stratagem, you could ignore that with your psychic weapons. Nothing about, say, psychic abilities, like the Genestealer Cult Patriarch has a psychic ability that causes Battleshock. It being keyword psychic doesn't mean anything. There's no way of resisting psychic abilities or stopping psychic abilities from working. So I don't know what that's about. They might just drop that. Yeah, they could do. May as well. Will these changes make Greyfax worth using at all? She's decent for anti-psyker stuff, it's just that the psychers have gotten stronger. I don't think people would appear and say, hey, more people are psychic now. I think the same number of psychers will still appear. Maybe more in Space Marines, because there's that 1 detachment for the Libraries Conclave. That'd be good. That would work. Do I pay for my own gifted membership? YouTube lets me have some memberships I can give away for free every month. I think it's meant to be a, hey, make sure you do live streams, basically. Do live streams, give members. We will keep giving you members to make more members. Yes, Greyfax works well against Tyranids. There's always going to be a Psyker there. Also pretty well anywhere that there's Psykers. Grey Knights, Thousand Suns. Oh, you saw the battle report where I played Paul Centurions. I was looking forward to smashing him with my one of the least used Genestealer Cult attachments, the Xenocreed Congregation, and just rushing at him and be like, this is how you overextend, Paul, blah. He did overextend in the game, he just did it wrong. Because I don't know whether you've seen his version of it or my version of it. My version of it ends with a, here's what Paul should have done. And then went through the problems. Can't wait for your Firestorm Infernus to be Strength 6 AP -2 using Pyromancy. Uh-huh. As long as Librarians can join Infernus Marines, yes. Yes. Because I'm looking at that and thinking, I'm going to take Librarians with my Death Watch, because I've got a Terminator Librarian, I've got a Librarian that can go with a kill team, such as a Decimus kill team. And then I'll use the Bastion Task Force enhancement to give them precision, and then all of their shooting will be like reroll wound rolls of 1, or they'll get an extra movement, and then that one Gravis Marine that's hanging at the back can move up and get his feet in the game. Move 6 inches, please. Keep forgetting that they only move 5 inches. But only that one guy. What else do we get from the Librarius Conclave? Because it's exactly the same as right now. Add 2 inches of movement, reroll hit rolls, and wound rolls of 1. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Deathwatch don't need the reroll hit rolls of 1. We have that on some of our units, not all of our units. The Fortis kill team really likes reroll hit rolls of 1. Pyromancy, +1 armor penetration if you shoot within 12 inches. Yeah, that's pretty good. Fortis kill team bolters. Are they already -1? Or are they -2? Deathwatch bolt rifle is -2. You can make Deathwatch bolt rifles AP -3. That's going to go well with the Black Spear Task Force. I'm pretty sure the Black Spear Task Force is still around. They didn't say, like, it's getting deleted. I think it'll continue. The exact wording that they've had before isn't quite the same. I mean, they showed off the Warhammer community thing and said, oh yeah, when we were talking about Raptors and said that reroll wound rolls is really powerful and that's why they have Lance, we didn't actually mean that's why they have Lance. Lance is +1 to wound still. Twin linked is reroll wound rolls. Ooh, -1 strength. That's an option. Ignore modifiers to weapon skill, ballistic skill for all things in the unit. Good. That's a good thing. Librarius. It's pretty good. I played it when it first came out, and it was fine. It was just not a great replacement compared to any of the other Space Marine detachments. Now that you can mix them, and it's like, okay, this is a really weak detachment. Let's add another one. That's good. Then you can make up for it. And they said that for the Genestealer cult, we're going to get detachments that focus on one particular unit. Like one character. I'm expecting a Reductus Saboteur detachment. That'll be crazy. Reductus Saboteurs are already really good. What other things have we got? An Abominant detachment? Big Hammer Lady detachment? Oh, let's have that. I'm also thinking like a Psyker detachment, Benefactus Magus, and Patriarch. Make them better. Please no Clamorous detachment. Please no Clamorous detachment. People would then take the Clamorous. I can't handle that. It's not okay that he exists. It's wrong. It's wrong on all the levels. Locust detachment, Nexus detachment. Yeah, you could do like a Nexus and Primus detachment. Behind the scenes, the Commander's detachment. An Assassin detachment, we have about 6 of them. 2 kinds of Sanctus. Reductus Saboteur is a kind of assassin. The Locust is a kind of assassin. The Kellamorph's a kind of assassin. Have an Assassin detachment. Something for our lone operatives. Why not? Like, 2/3 of the army is characters already. Nobody said Black Spear Task Force is staying. No one said Black Spear Task Force is leaving. I expect there'll be very minor changes and they will just re-release the Deathwatch faction pack as it is, with all of the current detachments. Emperor's Champion detachment that turns him into a god. Yeah. That's a strong one. Corvus Blackstar detachment? No. There's not going to be any Deathwatch extra detachments. A Battleshock Genestealer cult detachment? No, the way we do Shadow in the Warp, the way the Tyranids have Shadow in the Warp, is our Shadow in the Warp comes entirely from the Patriarch. And that's going to be a strong ability. It's already annoying for my opponents, like, hey, you've got to take Battleshock. Oh, that whole thing you thought you were going to take, that objective you thought you had with your objective control 6 Imperial agents. No, their objective control 0. It's mine now. Primus detachment that gives our rerolls to hit back? Maybe. We'll have to see what they do to Final Day. I know the Clamorous causes Battleshock. I'm just ignoring it. I don't want a Battleshock detachment. Their explanation of how they work is how they worked on Imperial Agent Codex release. No, I think their explanation was how it worked on the faction pack release. I think that was the idea, where it's you can use them as Adeptus Astartes still, which you couldn't when the Imperial Agents Codex came out because the faction pack the index stopped working then. I'll rewatch it and believe what I want to believe, and then we'll see. Otherwise, the way they worked on Imperial Agent Codex release is there was no faction. And it stopped existing, and they said it would keep existing. I'm going to take a look. Where did you put this text? Is it in the 40k stuff? Here we are. Is Deathwatch still an army in the new edition? I got worried when they didn't feature alongside Space Marines. Lots of ums, lots of ahs. Lots of you playing Deathwatch when we're super sure it still works. They continue to work kind of as they do today. So you can add them into Imperial Agents through Imperial Agents, through the ally system, or you can take them in a Space Marine army. Say this is a Deathwatch Space Marine army. Yeah, so Adeptus Astartes Deathwatch. You don't get any new detachments, but you can keep taking all the Space Marine ones. Yeah. That's the way I said it works. Yes. Will aircraft be any good now? Don't know. Maybe no. They may not be as predictable as they turn up. So the idea is you rapid ingress them, or no, you ingress move them, which means they come in from reserves. Then you can point them at the enemy and do your bombing run. And they're still there at the end of your turn. They're still there through the rest of the enemy turn, and then they automatically leave the board at the end of the enemy turn. No, Deathwatch isn't going to be put into Codex Space Marines. Demons are not being put into Codex Chaos Space Marines. Demons are continuing to have their whole, we are an index, we continue into next edition. I believe they also mentioned that. It depends if the aircraft do anything extra special. If they can block movement as they can, or they'll keep all of the awkward aircraft rules that currently exist, where you can walk over them and they don't block movement, and they're always, I would expect they're going to change to objective control dash. Maybe they can hover, and then they don't use the aircraft rules. Vulcan dead? Well, Vulcan was already dead. But the weird thing about Vulcan is he can resurrect. So they said, there's nothing about Primarchs coming back, but that could be a lie. Aircraft user spot? Indirect fire? Yeah, could be, could be. They might want them to be more viable next edition. It's just this edition, they're paying for the sins of 9th edition, when people were putting them in front of the enemy army and be like, hey, you cannot move past this. Because you cannot move through my units. And your unit cannot shoot me because I'm minus all of this to hit, so you're only hitting me on 6s. And you cannot charge me unless you can fly. I used to take a unit of Raptors just to charge and hit some flying things. So we have sort of rules in this edition to make flyers exist, but not exist well. And then pretty much everything that could affect flyers explicitly does not affect flyers. Unrelated to things that can fly. Yeah. Same with terrain. It's awkward that you could, if you had cheap terrain, then you would do as people were suggesting in the chat already, saying, okay, I'm going to build this terrain and put it just behind the terrain that's out here. And then there's another piece of area terrain that I can sit in, and you can't move through it because it's my unit. So you have to charge it and destroy it, and it's going to be hard to destroy. And let me think. How hard is it to destroy an Aegis defense line? Aegis defense line. It has 10 wounds, a toughness 12, and a 2-up save. And if you can't see it to shoot it, yeah, it's quite difficult to get rid of. Are there any rules currently to say you can move over it? Friendly units can go on it, gives the benefit of cover. Also gives an invulnerable save, does the Aegis defense line. It's a fortification, so enemies can charge it. Enemies can still be shot. They don't need to take a desperate escape test. Oh yeah, desperate escape. That's going to change. That's now a hazard roll. We'd seen that mentioned in like the narrative thing. When you set up, all your models need to take a hazard roll. So desperate escape and hazardous are being merged together. It's on a 1 or a 2, and then you take a mortal wound. So a tank falling back that fails its hazardous test will only take 1 wound in this edition, whereas in 10th edition it would be destroyed. It also makes hazardous a bit more nasty for plasma weapons. Yeah, third of a chance of disappearing. Well, third of a chance of taking a mortal wound. So a Space Marine will be fine for the 1 time it happens, unless you have a unit of like the Plasma Marines and you fail 4 of them. That's not 4 different models taking 1 wound. That'll be 2 dead Space Marines. Why did they say every non-returned loyal Primarch is dead? Maybe it's because every non-returned loyal Primarch is dead. It might be that. Or they could just be messing and they don't know or really care. I think... No, I don't know. Why did they bother answering that question? People are still going to speculate. Ferrus Manus return confirmed? That's going to be a video from someone. Is AP -2, anything beyond AP -2, seeming kind of useless because there's a lot of good saves or 4+ invulnerable saves? Yeah, that's pretty much right. Some things don't have that. Like, if you fire melter weapons at the right target, they don't have that. A lot of the Primaris tanks and things don't have an invulnerable save. So you can get to them. You like the hazardous change for Through Suffering Strength Palatine. Ah, yeah. So Through Suffering Strength enhancement, if you take a wound, then you get a bonus. Rather than losing 3 wounds and being dead. Others return as tanks. Yeah, hidden in detection range is either going to be huge or completely useless. I think it's going to end up being pretty much useless. Because hidden's only going to apply to units that haven't fired. Or that have done a stratagem thing that certain things can. Like if you're a sniper, you can shoot and still say, hey, yeah, I'm still hidden. And then you'll move closer to them and shoot. 15 inches is quite a long way. Being behind terrain, then you're obscured, then you can't be shot at all. Which is easier. That's like guaranteed you cannot shoot me, rather than, oh, but if you get within 15 inches, oh. Yeah, Terminators will get the benefit of cover. -1 to be hit. The extra AP, or lack of an AP, didn't really matter. I'm glad that from 9th edition to 10th edition, they had toned down a lot of the armor penetration. Board size is exactly the same. 10th edition to 11th edition board size is the same. They've shown off 2 of the layouts, and if you measure them, because they have squares that are 1 inch by 1 inch, it's still 44 by 60. Exactly the same as it is in the current edition, and exactly the same as it was in 9th edition. But also like in 10th edition, as in 11th edition, but not in 9th edition, the 1000 point games are on exactly the same board size as 2000 points. Not a problem. A lot of these are questions that, especially the questions that they asked and answered, I knew the answer before they were ever asked, but never mind. The board size is defined by what Games Workshop sells. Yeah. Eldar has standard 18-inch range hidden? Maybe. Sure. Maybe all the Harlequins win. Or the Harlequins all get Lone Operative 18. Hang on, I've seen Lone Operative. They've shown off Lone Operative. Does it just have a standard range? Yeah, Lone Operative is just you are not visible unless enemies are within 12 inches. Also, you cannot fire indirect fire weapons at them. Which is the thing I was immediately going to suggest. Okay, do we have any more questions we can think of? Otherwise, I believe I will go and turn this into a video and then probably release this video tomorrow. And also, I'm thinking Final Day. We need to do Final Day. I plan to get Final Day released by Sunday. So check out on my channel on Sunday. There should be something that says, hey, this is upcoming Final Day video. And like they just did with Games Workshop, where they did a premiere of something that's pre-recorded, I will also do that pre-recorded and be there in the chat. Okay, good. I'll see you soon commenting on my videos, and hopefully, if you're a Gene Steeler Co-op player or you like to see me, you'll also visit for the Final Day video. Yeah. Alright, my darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.